This is my personal card, so just email me.
Do you want to
I
put
have
the
my email.
correct information on it?
No, that's got my personal information, which is not my cosplay stuff, so she can actually get in touch with me. Okay. 2 minutes. Yeah, well, we might as well just start now.
Well, all right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are we?
All right.
I think we've got like 2 minutes, but I might as well start. We'll introduce ourselves and then just kind of go through some things. We're both pretty big cosplayers. I'm relatively new. I've been doing costuming and doing costumes for a really long time, but I'm actually really relatively new to sewing. And me and another friend, we actually were the ones that decided to start doing this panel because it's kind of daunting getting in when you have no sewing skills, or your sewing skills are on like the McCall's Sew Easy patterns and you really are having problems. And I tried to look into doing commissions and things like that. And Laura here is a much more experienced costumer, and she'll tell you a little bit about that before we get started. So,
Yeah. Hi, I'm Laura. I've been sewing costumes for
closer to the microphone,
years.
it's not very
Oh,
good.
hey, can we hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, all right. I've been sewing costumes for a long time, and I just started doing commissions fairly recently for people I know, including this one who's commissioned a couple of costumes off of me. I'm mostly here for backup and to give any advice I can think of for anybody who wants to make something but they're not quite sure how, and I'd be more than happy to answer questions later if you have any.
So this is actually our Lutece costumes for BioShock Infinite. We were wearing those yesterday. But all of this is this was all made. None of it was purchased. So that's kind of an example of the extremes you can go to. So I know a lot of people do buy these costumes. You can buy some of the pieces from China. You can also do some of these pieces from thrift stores and things like that. And that's definitely something that you can do, and that's not a problem. But then you can go to the other extreme where you go to complete making all of it to be completely historically accurate and things like that. And so we'll start out with commissioning, which is one of the things that you definitely have to rely on if you can't sew, like I was for a very long time. And I'll have Laura take over for this right now.
Oh, well, all right.
Sorry, you can't read it.
Yeah, no, I can't read any of it.
Okay, I'll read it off
All
for
right,
you. I'm
cool.
sorry. She's new to the.
This is the first time I've done this, so please forgive me. I just
Oh,
got
it's-
drafted into this panel.
Yeah,
so-
I do this panel pretty much across the country at different conventions, but I have different commissioners every time because all my commissioners live in different parts of the country. So the main thing is to do your research. Obviously, there's a lot of choice on the internet now. You can go, pretty much on any website, and there are lots of people hawking their wares and telling you that they can do a really good job. But again, you really need to pay attention to their reviews, look at their costumes, and go through a large swath of their costumes and be aware. Like, some people are really, really good at making bodysuits, but are not very good at making armor. Don't commission someone who you only see them making bodysuits to make your armor, because they may think that they can do it, but you don't want to use your money to find out if they can do it or not.
Ditto, like, I know a lot of people who make armor who can't sew, but they can make some of the most beautiful armor pieces you've ever seen. You just need to find somebody who wants to make the stuff in their comfort zone, and because they'll be better at it, and they'll be better at it for someone else because they've made it enough times for themselves that they're good at it. The more detailed, the better, I suppose, refers to when you're asking for a commission, be sure to tell them, like, what you want. And to be more specific more specific is better. If you want a dress like one of the ones from Frozen, if you want it to be separate pieces, or if you want it to be one piece, if you want it to be easier to wear and more comfortable, or if you want it to be more accurate and sacrifice some comfort, if you have a price range, be sure to mention that, because then they'll tell you if they can and can't do it. And most people are pretty polite about commissions. They want to work something out with you. They want to make it work or see if they can help you. So talking is better. Communication is really key. What else we got? Oh, you get what you pay for. So you can get a lot of really inexpensive costumes online, ordered, through eBay or from China. And some of them are really nice, but it's up in the air a little bit. It's a game of roulette. If you get something from somebody who's like a cosplayer that you like and you think they can do what you want, it might be a little more expensive than you expect, but that's because the materials and time involved it can be really hard to make some of these costumes. You have to figure out how to put them on a live person. You have to figure out how to make them so that they can be wearable or comfortable, and put all the pieces together so that they stay and they look like what they are in the pictures. It can be really time-consuming and difficult to do some of even the most simple costumes to make them look like they're supposed to. So don't balk immediately if you get a price that's more than you thought, because most commission people won't give you something that's really, really outlandish, because they don't want to take you for all your money. They're just trying to make sure that they get paid enough for the amount of time and effort it'll take to make you look really, really good in your costume.
Yeah. For example, how much would you charge for this corset?
With the sequins, I made that corset for her, and then she hand sequined all the stuff on it. So she spent hours, about a week, sewing sequins onto this. The corset itself, I'd probably charge about $300, because I put steel bones in it, I sized it to where it's perfect, it's lined, it's hand-stitched on the bottom, so it took me a long time to make. With that kind of sequining, that's a week of her life spent sewing individual sequins onto this thing. It would probably be easy another $300, so it would end up being about a $600 corset. And it sounds like a lot, but it fits her perfectly, and it looks exactly like it's supposed to. So the difference in prices can be a little daunting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. And I mean, obviously, like, not everybody has a huge amount of discretionary funds. But most commissioners will actually work with you. I think one of the best things to do with a commissioner is see if they'll do a payment plan with you. Say, basically, look, I'll pay you 50% up front so you can buy the materials and stuff, but then halfway through the process, I want to see what you've made, and then I'll pay you the rest. Or, you know, I'll pay you just before you send it. I think that that's really important, because it also, especially if it's with somebody that you don't know and they're not your friend, it allows you to have a little bit of safety on that, and so that you're not going to lose money in case, you know, you get something that's horrible. I have a good, I commissioned a friend to make me a costume. I paid him up front, and he swore that he could make this costume. And I've seen his costumes, and his costumes are usually really good. He makes bodysuits, and I assumed that he could make White Queen, Emma Frost from X-Men. And what I got, he took on too many commissions, and I ended up with a pair of pants that didn't fit me and a bra top with a cape attached to it. It was unwearable. Luckily, he was really good with me and it ended up paying me back my money, because he felt really bad about it. But that was because he was my friend. If he wasn't my friend, I don't know if I would have made the money back. And again, that's definitely, I'm a well-seasoned person who gets commissions, and I completely trusted him. And it's one of those things where you have to trust, but you need to also be aware and be savvy and try to cover your own butt with things. And we've got some pictures to show you to go, oh, sorry, wrong way. Okay, for example, these are a lot of costumes that Laura herself has made. This is my gem costume from Tron Legacy. This costume, it took a very, very long time to make. Each piece was hand sewn into it. It was originally a bodysuit that I had given to Laura. I originally thought I could make it myself. I did not have the quality skills on that one. And Laura hand stitched and sewed those pieces together. And there's also a undersuit that goes along with it. And she hand sewed the tape into it, the reflective tape, to make it shine. So, and she charged me a pretty good amount for it, but she would have charged me more if I wasn't a friend.
Yeah.
So it was definitely like, but there's the quality for you on that. And that's not something that you're going to be able to get out of China. Or again, one of the reasons I do a lot of commissions is now that I'm able to sew, I don't actually have a lot of time on my hands because of my own personal job. And allowing me to commission things out to friends and to other people, I can have more costumes. Do you want to talk a little bit about this one? And how you drafted it, since we didn't have any real ideas?
It took me a really, really long time to do Gem for her, because that costume was so complicated with how everything fitted together. So as sort of an apology, I knew she wanted to cosplay this, and this was much simpler to make because it was only a few lines that wrapped in really obvious ways. And I do a lot of spandex bodysuits, so I know how to do them, and I had all her measurements on hand. And so this costume came out really wonderfully, and it was just random fabric that I had that I sewed together for her, and she had the gloves and the boots and did that herself. And this costume has turned into one of the ones she likes the most, and I wouldn't have charged her very much at all for it. So
and how long did it take you to make that costume?
About a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you never know. Like sometimes it can vary really wildly depending on what the costume is and what the requirements are for it. So it might be a lot less expensive than you think to commission someone for something you think is very difficult if they're good at it.
Yeah, I mean, like she made that in a day. I would make this in a month and then throw it away because it would look bad. I am not on bodysuits yet. He's not here, but I wanted to show you a good example of found versus commission. So this is my friend Iggy, and the one on the left, he basically he did thrift store shopping and like basically just found all the pieces to do Joker from around the Goodwills and things he had. And the one on the right is the one that he actually had the jacket commissioned and the vest and the gloves so that and the pinstripe pants. And obviously it's a much more high quality and it will last a lot longer. It looks more like the character. And again, like that's one of the things that you can do. Like he did that slowly over time. So even if you don't have a lot of money, you can slowly get those pieces and start to take them out. And so as you're going along, the costume gets better and better. And I think that's something that you don't have to feel like you have to have everything right the first time. Like you can go slowly but surely. Like for example, we don't have our capes or caplets because we didn't get them done. They didn't look good enough to be up here, and we'll get those done eventually. And it's like don't feel bad if you don't get all the pieces to the costume done or commissioned or anything like that.
It's definitely not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's all baby steps.
Yeah.
And here's a good example of a really, really high maintenance, high cost costume.
Oh my goodness. So I made a bunch of these. These
are
were
from
not
Mass Effect,
commissioned.
yeah.
These were Mass Effect costumes that we made for competition. And this was one that we got really, really into, and this is an in-progress shot because it ended up being we couldn't finish it in time for the contest, so I don't have any final shots because the makeup takes, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours to put on, and we haven't gotten around to it yet. But this was all leather and hand-studded, and this took a very long time to put together. And sometimes I made this costume without taking 50%. So this was a commissioned costume that I didn't take any money from up front. And on the flip side of the commission spectrum, they haven't paid me for this costume. And this is probably something like a $1,200 costume because it's all leather, all metal studding, and all hand done. And that's okay. I still have it. I'm very sad about that, but they're a good friend of mine, and I'll let it go.
I'm gonna get to wear it. So.
And now she gets to wear it, so she found out they didn't pay for it, and she was like, "Oh my God!" But costumes, you don't have to do it in leather for it to look good. Like you don't have to commission someone to do it with what you think it is. I've made this costume twice now, and the second one I made was spandex, and it looks just as good as this one on the girl who commissioned it from me. And it's so much less expensive. So price can vary and it can go down a lot. If you listen to the person you're commissioning from, they can suggest things that may help you move it into your price range, or they can suggest different ways to achieve the same look without actually using the materials that they claim it is in whatever the source material happens to be.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely, price tags are, it's hard, but I mean, to work with somebody, and if that person, you feel like their price tag's a little too high, talk to somebody else and see what they can do it for. And maybe you can play it off, for example, and realize that if you're going with a ball gown or something like that, that has a lot of layers and stuff, for example, like Jennifer's dress from The Labyrinth, the big ball gown that she wears in that's like a $3,000 costume. And that's a huge sticker shock. But again, it's not only the money, it's the time. Like, could you make, if you bought the materials yourself, you could probably buy the materials for cheaper, but the amount of time you're going to put in and, away from your own life is going to be about $3,000 worth of time. Putting the sequins on this costume that I'm wearing right now nearly drove me insane. I finished it last night, and I've been going since 2 Saturdays ago. It's been rough. And I have a real job, and I work 9-hour days, and so I would go home and I would just sew. And yeah, it was crazy, but it's worth it in the end. And you definitely, you get what you pay for, but also
cosplay is a labor of love.
Yeah, it really is. And no one should, commissioning a costume, There's no shame in that. Like, don't ever let
Not at
anybody
all.
think that just because you commissioned it or you didn't make it yourself, that like,
I see a lot of haters that get really mad about people who commission costumes or who even assemble costumes from thrift stores. I've seen some really brilliant costumes assembled from purchased pieces, especially when it comes to like modern television or sci-fi. I've seen some really good work done by people who didn't sew a single thing on their costume, didn't commission a piece. But there's a lot
I
of
do a lot of it.
a lot of really high maintenance people in this that get really on about it, and you should never feel bad for commissioning a piece, and you should never feel bad for finding it. Doesn't matter. Cosplay is something that you do for fun, and anybody who says otherwise is just a killjoy.
Yeah.
Really, they just need to chill out. It's a party, and everybody should have fun at the party.
So, speaking of purchases, we have internet store purchases. Now, there are a lot of people who, there's Milano, there's Costume House, and there are a lot of these Chinese, Tokyo, Korean houses that do these costumes on the really, really cheap. And you will read the reviews, and it is wild on, some people get costumes that really, really work for them. Some people get costumes that don't work for them at all. It's definitely buyer beware, but to me personally, I found that their stuff is so cheap that it's worth the risk for me. I've bought a couple things from them, and that was some of my first cosplays I ever had were from Milano, and I had a great time in it. Like, I loved it, and I had a blast with it, and I'm trying to upscale a couple of them, but I would still go out and wear them, and I think that they look pretty good. Now, I've seen other ones that look really bad, but again, it's one of those things where it's so cheap that it's worth it to, try it, and as long as you feel comfortable with the fact that, like, you may have to take it in a little bit. I got one dress from them that was, I gave them my measurements, but they definitely didn't understand my measurements, and it ended up being like 2 sizes too big. But we took it in. Yeah, that was a vein. But we took it in, and it looks really good now. It was like $100, and to make that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to make that dress for
No,
her
I mean
for
the material
$100.
itself was
And
like $100 worth of material.
It came out very beautifully.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit big, but
It's huge. But I mean, eBay, Etsy, like there are a lot of people who sell pre-made costumes that have all the props, things like that you can buy there, and there's no problem with that. Just, again, read reviews and be aware that you may not be getting exactly what you were looking for. I've got some good examples of purchases. This mask that I'm wearing in this picture, there's a really good company that does this. It's called Eccc, and they do all of these different masks. They do Batman cowls. They do the the Miss Marvel mask, which is also not the Catwoman mask, Shadowcat mask. They do ones for Green Lantern. They do a wide different range, and they can also do custom work. And they're great, and I love them, and I use them for a lot of stuff. They also sell the adhesive that sits on your face, and that adhesive's better than Spirit gum. You have to buy their special remover, though, because if you don't do it, it'll like pull your face off. It's super strong stuff, but it's great because if you sweat and stuff, Spirit gum will just slide off your face, and this stuff, it is on there for the long haul. And it's great. The gloves I bought from a Chinese store because I couldn't make wet look, gloves myself. The leotard is bought, and then I sewed the lightning bolt on top of it. And I bought that from a dance shop. I use dance shops for a lot of leotards because they always are going to have a pretty high quality, good product. And it's going to be a lot better probably than any leotard I can make. Read FX, I should have them on the another page. I'll have a list of resources.
also dance tights are the best tights in the world. They're all opaque, fantastic. They don't run.
Yeah,
Totally
and we'll,
worth the extra like $5.
Yeah, we'll have questions at the end, and we'll use the microphone.
Yes.
We'll have some good time for it. For example, this is one of the Milano dresses. That's a Milano dress. It's not completely accurate to what Giselle wore in Enchanted. It's lace as opposed to the brocade that she has. But the brocade, I actually asked someone how much that was going to cost to get commissioned, and a Spoonflower, which is a company that does fabric print, they're not even going to hand sew it. They're going to do the Spoonflower print. It's going to cost me about $800 to $900. I paid like $150 for this. It's not perfect, but it really, I love wearing it, and it looks good. I'm going to eventually want to go more accurate. I'm going to put down the money and get the really accurate costume. But if you're just going to have fun, and you're not looking for like complete screen accuracy, like this works for it. And again, I had a blast with it, so that's all that really mattered to me. If I can get my computer to work. And this is an example of almost a completely store-bought costume. I bought the hat in Seattle, actually, at the Natural History Museum because they had the Tutankhamun exhibit. I bought the hat and realized I wanted to be Indiana Jones. And everything in this picture that you see, I bought online. And most of it actually came from a Indiana Jones costume shop that sells all the Indiana Jones costume outfits. And so they have all the screen accurate stuff. And it saved me a lot of time because I wasn't gonna be able to make jumpers and things like that. Those are riding pants. And they're great. And it looks good. And I didn't have to do a lick of sewing. And I have no problem with that. And it looks good.
Yeah.
And so, again, this is an example of what you can do just purchasing things. And I think that that's a really good thing for you to know that you don't have to sew everything. Okay, now wigs and makeup. This is my gig. This is what I actually know how to do really well. So I am a strong proponent, and this is my one thing. I don't think nothing ruins a good cosplay like a really bad wig. And I don't mean like a bad wig isn't, you always need to wear a wig cap if you can. Wig caps are are going to keep your hair completely in place, so you're not going to have stray flyaway wig hairs, and it'll keep everything looking really, really smooth. It helps you have something to pin your bobbies to keep your wig on your head, and I think it completes the look because a lot of times you can have a really, really good costume, but if your natural hair is showing through on your wig, it can really kind of ruin the look. And I think if you can't style a wig, there's some wigs that are really, really complicated. Commission it. This wig I actually commissioned because I didn't have time to do it on my own. But there are a lot of people who do wig commissions and do amazing work. And I'll actually have some pictures for it. And they actually don't charge a lot. This wig, normally if I was going to style it myself, I would buy about a $30 or $40 Arta wig and then style it. And that would take me about 3 or 4 hours. And I would probably end up charging about $90 to $100 for this wig. I got this styled and sent to me from New Orleans for $80. So there are some people who will do pretty good wig work for a relatively cheap price. And there are some things that are very, very detailed that are obviously going to cost a lot more. But I think most people will work with you on wigs, and you can get them shipped and things like that. So you never have to worry that just because you're not in that place, they won't be able to get you a wig. And I also think that makeup is really, really important. A lot of people don't necessarily how to work with makeup and stuff. There are a lot of great tutorials online on how to wear really good makeup, because even if you don't wear makeup in regular everyday life, especially if you're getting your photo taken a lot at cons and things like that, it's really, really important to have like makeup on, especially like eyeliner. I'm a real big proponent of fake eyelashes on girls. It really does make your eyes look bigger. It looks better in pictures. At least foundation and some lipstick, and I think that's really good. If you're a guy,
Some powder.
A little bit of
Really
powder or a little bit of foundation. You don't necessarily need to have it, but it'll definitely make things look smoother in photography if you care about that. I actually would say a little bit of brown eyeliner. It helps your eyes pop. And that sounds crazy, but brown, not black. You don't, unless you're doing somebody who has guy liner. But definitely like just a little bit, and it definitely helps your eyes stand out a little bit in pictures. If you're going for that, if you want people to take pictures and you're doing those photo shoots and the big group get-togethers, it definitely adds that little thing to it. And some examples. This is my Vanellope. The wig, this wig is actually just a normal black-haired wig with a black ponytail wig clip on top of it. And that cost me about $90. And that extra wig clip actually adds a lot more flip to it and has that kind of cartoony look. But the main thing with this one, I'm wearing circle lenses, which are a big thing out in Asia, and they make your eyes look bigger. And her eyes, because she's very doll, like I wanted to have that big eye doll look. So I bought circle lenses. Circle lenses are, I will say right now, are not safe for long-term use. You shouldn't be wearing them for, overnight or for long periods of time, but they do really help your eyes. They're a place called Pinky Paradise, which I'll have on the slide. They cost about $20 to $30 for a whole two contacts, and they do have them in prescription. I'm blind as a bat without my glasses on, and I can get my prescription lenses from them. And you don't have to go through a doctor, which is against the law, but Pinky Paradise doesn't care. It's against the law because they want to make sure that you're going to a reputable source. It's not going to give you an eye disease. But I've never had a problem with Pinky Paradise, and most people I know have never had a problem with them. Their lenses come in quality cases. They're not like tampered with. It's not, you're not getting them in a little plastic bag or something like that. And so I think that they're a really good resource, and they have a lot of good sales. And some of these are just some of my this is a wig I had commissioned, and this wig was about $80, I think. And it's really, they did the extra spray to it and added the flowers, and it's really, really high in the back and teased up. And this is another wig that actually, my friend Courtney's in the crowd, and she made the costume that I'm wearing in that one. She's right over there. But this wig I had commissioned for Argila from Digital Devil Saga, and I actually put some of the extra little bun bows, the little head rolls on it. But again, that's something, another example of a good commission. And in this picture, I had not fully understood, I hadn't really gotten into makeup that much, and I'm not wearing a lot. It's like an eyeliner for this weird scar she has and a little bit of lipstick. And now if I went back into that costume, I would do something very different, because she's actually a gray face character, and I don't have any of that on, because I didn't really understand that. As opposed to Gem, where I'm wearing a lot of makeup. I have makeup all the way on my ears, through my neck. I'm wearing under eyelashes, these contacts, and just heavy, heavy makeup. And that's another example. She's basically a computer program, so she isn't supposed to look human at all. And so that's a way to use makeup to try to distinguish yourself from the reality. Social media. I know social media is a really big thing nowadays, and people are really, really into it and having, do you have a fan page? Like my page. I have a Tumblr, things like that. And I think it's a really good thing, even if you're not really into like promoting your cosplay. I think it's a really good way to reach out to people and meet people that are like-minded, and get a group of people together. There are lots of groups on Facebook that are good for cosplaying, and sometimes I'll post in there and be like, look, I'm working on this costume. I don't actually know how to do this. Can you guys, I want to make this, but can you guys give me some tips? And usually there'll be someone in there who's good at that thing who can help me. So like someone may help me make a prop with like Warbla, which is a plastic material, or wood, and they'll be like, okay, well, I'll help you with this, but can you help me, teach me how to, style a wig? And so you can do that. And while also, like, I have people all across the country that I talk to and work with, it also helps you find local people, because sometimes it's hard to find local people, especially if you're not in like a big metropolitan area and you live in a rural town. Sometimes you can find people that you didn't even know lived like 2 blocks from you that do this stuff with you, and you guys can get together and start, sharing your experiences and sharing your skill sets, because that's the way you get better. Fan pages. I have a fan page. Laura does not.
I do not have.
But Laura still, if she wants work, she can get work. People can contact me, and I use my fan page because it's a good way for me to keep my cosplay out of my personal life. I have a real 9-to-5 job with the government. I really don't need people talking about my cosplay on my page where my coworkers are. I love them, but I don't need that. So a fan page is a good way for me to keep that there and have my personal page. And it's a way for me to still talk to people that I meet at cons and not necessarily let them into the complete like privacy of that. And so I think that's a good way to do it. And again, we've been talking about it, but everyone is different. So be really careful about not putting someone down just because they're not doing your version of a cosplay. Like someone may be wearing a completely bought version of a costume that you put, 70 hours in making. That doesn't necessarily mean that yours is better than theirs. It just means that they're doing it for a different reason, or they're new. You don't know their whole story on why they're doing stuff. And I think sometimes it's really hard because it's cosplay. It's a visual media, and so it's always hard. And we're humans.
There's really
and so,
a tendency to be competitive with
Yeah.
it, and it's okay if you want to compete, but not everybody does. So it's better to just be happy about it and be glad to meet other people who like the same thing you like and that want to dress up as it. And that's just a better and more fun place to be than hating on people. It's just not cool.
And I mean, not all of us are heroes of cosplay. So, I mean, and I'm glad that show exists and it's getting more people into the fandom. And I think that's a really, really positive thing. But just remember that you don't have to, don't feel like you can't jump into cosplay just because you're not at that level.
No.
Not a lot of people are at that level.
I can't style a wig for my life, but I can make corsets. So
Yeah, I can't make a corset.
this is the extent of my styling capabilities: is braids and brushing to the sides lightly.
Yeah, so it's definitely
That's-
like everybody has a different skill set. I mean, sometimes like my friend, he's really good with working with wood, and he builds like wood panels and all these different like bookshelves. and he got into cosplay, and he was like, oh, I can use my woodworking skills in cosplay. And so he makes wood weapons now, and he's so fast at them. And I'm working on a dwarf cosplay from The Hobbit, and I was going to make all my weapons. And he was like, well, I can make them in like 3 days. And I was like, okay, good. You're making them in 3 days for me, because it was going to take me way longer. And I think that's, again, talk to your friends and see what they can do that you can't, and then, heck, trade.
Actually, a really good example of this is we have a friend who came with us to this con, and it's her first con ever. And we were trying to talk her into wearing a costume that matched with us, because I have some spare costumes that I've made for various people at various events, and I could borrow one and put it on her because it would have fit. And she didn't want to because it's her first con, and I understand that. But in the future, she wants to cosplay with us, and I told her, yeah, I'll just make your stuff for you. And she didn't feel all right with that. She's like, well, I don't want to just have you make my costume for me. That doesn't seem fair. Well, there's a lot of stuff I don't really enjoy doing. Like, I like making big costumes, but when it gets to detail work or trimming thread,
Oh, you
or
mean like
making
putting
buckles
sequins
and
on
stuff-
something?
Yeah, exactly, like putting sequins on things for several hours. And
I should
I'll
never
make
accepted
the big
that.
pieces, and then she can do the little pieces because I don't enjoy that, and she likes detail work. So working as a group to make stuff that you love makes it a lot easier, and then everybody can do things that they find fun, or they can learn new skills. It's really a nice social activity
Yeah.
to do with friends.
And you get ownership in that then.
Yeah,
like
no.
I can say like I made part of this. And it's great.
And you feel a little proud to have your
Yeah.
work be done and fancy, and it's just a good feeling.
And so here are some resources. Arto Wigs, I'm really, really big on Arto Wigs. They're an American company. They go to a lot of different cons. They stay mostly in anime cons, but they go to other cons too. Arto Wigs have really big wig caps. And so for some people who have big heads or a lot of hair like me, they are really, really good on that. And they have wide range of colors. They have wide range of styles, and you can do a lot with their wigs. They're heat resistant. You can curl them. You can straighten them. You can do a lot of work. Fifi Mahoney's is my wig shop. They are down in New Orleans. I found them at a bachelorette party one time, and I go with them no matter what. Fifi's, it basically caters to drag queens and the Mardi Gras crowd. So they make incredible, just wild wigs that are actually not that expensive. And you can email them with a picture and go, hey, can you make this? And they'll send you a quote. And then they'll send you pictures of the wig, and you don't pay for it until you have them ship it to you.
And oh my God, if you can find suppliers that do drag supplies, they're the best ever. You'll never
Yeah,
find
they're really
sturdier
good at it.
shoes or better wigs. Oh my God, it's just
Yeah, and-
fantastic.
And one of the things Fifi's will also do is that if your wig falls, like if this wig ever got damaged, they'll walk you through how to fix it on the phone, or you can send it back to them and they will fix it. They're really good about that stuff. And the woman who actually, there's one woman who styles all their wigs, and she's amazing. Commissioners, there's ZQ Costumes, and you can go through all these. Reed FX is the one that does the masks, I'm pretty sure. And these other ones, the Armory, Jordan's Ironic Armory does a lot of neat armor work, and you can work with them. And these other two are pretty good. And we're slowly, like, if I have a couple cards, so if anybody wants that, I can always email you more commission groups too. And so with that, we've got about 15, 20 minutes for questions. So if anybody has questions.
Anybody has any specific questions or wants any advice on a specific
there's
there's a microphone in the middle that they ask we use. Please ask us things. We would love to answer things.
Yeah, and we'll answer, pretty much anything.
If you don't ask us, we're just going to ramble. So.
Yeah.
Yes. I wish I did, but I don't at the moment.
We have, you can get our information from up here, and
Yeah.
we'll get you that information.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
No problem.
for shoe-wise, shoes are really hard to deal with sometimes, because sometimes you have some really specific shoes you need for costumes. The Milan, I will say, like Milano and the Chinese companies, they do make shoes. I have no personal experience with those, and I haven't heard good things about the shoe side of things. I have not heard any good things about shoes. There are a lot of websites that, there's some places that will actually do custom shoes for you. I haven't finished my shoes for Elsa. One of the things I'm going to do is Warbler. Warbler, again, is a plastic material. It's
Relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, it's relatively inexpensive. You can only get it from Europe, and there are only a couple of websites that actually sell it. But it's not that expensive. It's easier to work with than a material also called Wonderflex.
Oh, God.
Wonderflex is double-sided
Yeah, it's double
right?
glue sided.
So
yeah.
Wonderflex is double glue sided, which means it sticks to itself and causes a lot of problems when you're heating it. The way that these things work is they're plastic, and when you heat them up, they become soft and malleable. Warbler is only one-sided glue side, which means that it's a little easier to handle. It's not going to stick to your hands. It's not going to stick to whatever you're touching it to. And there are a lot of good tutorials online on how to work with that. There's a girl in Germany who actually makes a lot of World of Warcraft, StarCraft, and a couple other armors, and she's basically perfected the way to use Warbler, and she does really good tutorials on YouTube, and for the life of me, I can't remember her name, but if you type in Warbler tutorials, they'll be there, and she... Right, yeah, and she also did some What was it again?
Sventlana?
Yeah,
Sventlana.
Sventlana, and she has a web book that you can also buy. I actually bought it so that I could work and make some armor, because I'm starting to work with Warbler now, and you can...
I know when I started cosplay, I had, like, knowing these things wouldn't have helped me because
No.
I had no money. I was, like, stapling things together. But EVA foam, which is craft foam, like you get at Michael's, the thin sheets of it, EVA foam, if you heat it up to, I think it's about 200 degrees, so really low in the oven or really warm hairdryer temperature, that will shape itself to whatever you pull it over. So if you heat it in the oven just a little bit until it gets floppy, and then you say pull it over a bowl, when it cools, it'll retain the shape of the bowl. So it's really good for doing like lightweight armor stuff or shoes specifically. You can hot glue it. I'm not sure the entire range of like fancier glues, like the ones that have numbers on them or come in metal tubes. Some of those will melt it, but it's kind of trial and error. I know you can use Elmer's. It takes craft paint very well. You can spray paint it.
Is that the same as the craft foam I use? No.
Yeah, EVA. That's craft
It's
foam.
called EVA. Okay.
Well, it's EVA foam. I forget what that stands
Okay,
for.
well,
It's ethyl vinyl acetate.
Okay, well, EVA foam, also known to us laymen, because I didn't realize she was talking about the same thing I was, is this, it's basically like the craft foam you use in like kitty projects, like when you're making like kitty like Christmas hats and stuff, like that really thin foam, that's what EVA foam
Well,
is.
see, it comes...
Yeah, basically right that.
Yeah, that exactly.
I mean, you can also, there's a really good tutorial online. You can type it in and just write in foam elf armor.
No, you can do really nice ones because since Mass Effect happened, the floor mats, the ones that are like puzzle
that
pieces
works
that
too.
lock together on the floor, that's also EVA. So it comes up to like ½ an inch thick. So you can make some really fancy heavyweight armor if you have like, say, a $10 heat gun from Orchard. And that stuff, if you look up like Shepherd EVA tutorials, you can find all kinds of information on how to do really fancy body pieces and plate armor and stuff with EVA foam, and you can get really creative with it because it's easily cut and easily adhered.
I mean, but I use the kitty EVA foam. There's a great website. There's a great tutorial called you go Elven foam armor, and it basically was someone who made foam armor from Lord of the Rings out of this EVA foam, and it's a great tutorial. It uses cheesecloth, Elmer's glue, fabric glue, and water, and you make this. It takes time, but I made all my armor and my head, my little like head tiara, and like a helmet out of it for Thor and a couple other costumes I've done, and it looks good in pictures. You use a rub-on metallic stuff that you use when you're actually like. You rub. It's like metallic rub. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. Rub on. Rub and buff. Thank you. Rub and buff, and it gives a metallic sheen, and it basically looks like metal.
Yeah, I just used acrylic paint from Michael's.
Yeah.
Like,
it also uses floor wax. You use floor wax, and it seals it so that it's not going to get damaged as well. Yeah. And I mean, I will say it does get wrinkled if you get hit or it gets bumped a lot.
It's not super durable.
But I wore it for. I wore it for 2 entire cons, and I was able to, it looked really good. And it's relatively cheap. I mean, the EVA foam's like 99 cents a sheet, and I went through only 5 or 6
where do you
sheets.
shop? That's expensive.
Hey, I was shopping at Michael's. Some people have to shop at Michael's because we
Office
don't know these
Depot,
other
you
stores.
get like 10 pieces.
Yeah, but I mean, so there are lots of different places you can go, and I mean, Michael's and things like that. Now I will say, as someone who is not, again, I'm a pretty amateur sewer right now. I'm slowly getting into it. I bought a cheap sewing machine at like Joann's, and I use it. And I use most of my fabric at Joann's, and it's expensive. But if you know somebody who understands, if you're in a major city that actually has like fabric district, take that person with you and go to the fabric district. For example, I'd never been to I live in San Diego, and I went up with her to LA and went to the fabric district in LA. I needed some fake fur, and I was going to buy it at Joann's, and it was like $20 a yard. And I went to the fashion district, and it was like $5 or $10 for like a double-sided yard. And I was like, oh, so this is what cheap is. Like,
Yeah.
and it's hard because you don't necessarily have those resources. And that's okay. And that's another reason, like, go with cheaper fabrics that you can handle until you're a little bit, you can find a place where you may be able to get a little bit of quality.
Mm-hmm. Are there any
other questions?
Any questions? Or do we just continue rambling about things? Because I can just ramble. I've been singing all day, so let's just do that.
Well, let's see.
Well, all right. Well, we've got. Oh,
I know we've got like a little bit more time.
or are they sitting down?
I don't know what they're doing.
They're here for the next people. It's pretty,
Oh, that's fine.
pretty obvious. Well, that's cool. Yeah, no, a lot of these suggestions.
She has a question.
She does. Oh, never mind. Continue.
Is it important to use a chest binder if you're doing like the opposite gender while cosplaying?
Now, you can do it or you don't have to do it. There's nothing that you have to do for this. And if you do a chest binder, be sure it's comfortable to wear. Like when I started cosplay, it was before you could get chest binders regularly, so people would use bandages.
That's not safe, so don't do it.
Unless you know how to do it, it's not a good plan, but it's however you're comfortable. Now, some people really need to use a chest binder. Like, I can't do convincing dudes because I just can't get a chest binder that's sufficient to make me into a convincing man. But I know people who can. And T-Kingdom online does really good chest binders. They're comfortable. Don't get a size down because you think it'll work better, because it's important to be comfortable with it. You don't have to do that to crossplay. You can crossplay however you want. You can not bind.
Yeah,
you
like
can
for example,
bind.
like when I do Robert, I wear a chest binder that Laura made within like an hour because
spot.
we needed it.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's not.
It's not comfortable. I need to get one from T-Kingdom. But
She
for
really
example,
does.
when I do Vanellope, I'm supposed to be a 12-year-old girl. I definitely do not have the body of a 12-year-old girl. I wear 3 sports bras instead of a chest binder. And that smashes them down enough that it's fine. And I mean, to be honest, I wear 3 sports bras. It's not overly comfortable, but it's not an ace bandage. And that'll work just fine to crossplay. It just depends on like what you're comfortable in. You don't necessarily have to go with the chest binder.
It's also the costume. Because some of the costumes I've seen, like, you don't have to bind at all and you can get away with it. Because the outfit might be forgiving, or some of them, like some of the anime ones, there's a cool trick called open chest binding for shirtless people who have like Sephiroth or something.
I still don't
they wanna
understand
do.
how you do that though.
It's very confusing, and I can't do it, so I've never had to learn the trick. But I've seen it done very well regularly. So there's a lot of cool tricks you can learn by Googling stuff that other people have figured out that are just, I never thought about doing it like that. And open chest binding is one of them where it's very creative, but I don't know if I could manage it.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing a girl version. If you want to really go with the boy version, like, more power to you, and I say go for it. Figure out if you need, sports bras or, a binder or things like that. But there's no problem with turning it into a girl version if you really just can't, you don't think you're going to be able to do the chest binding or anything like that.
I'm so glad that's a thing now.
Yeah,
Like,
I do it. I mean, I do it a lot. And to be honest, there are sometimes actual canon versions of the character you want to do of them as a girl, especially if you're doing a Marvel character or a DC character, for example. I do
Adventure
Thor
Time?
or Adventure Time. I do Thor, and there was a version of Thor where he got turned into a girl by Loki, and it happened. And I do that version, and I love that version. And I didn't have to worry about any of this stuff. I didn't have to worry about being a super buff man. Like, I could be a girl, and and that's a really good thing. Just explore your options. I mean, sometimes you really want to do a guy, and you're going to have to, you don't necessarily have to do it, but it helps to have the binding and things like that, especially if you're doing, like, more power to the people who do free, or that's what it's called, right? Free is the anime, the swimming anime.
the swimming
They do
show.
open chest binding.
That's some tricky business.
I mean, all they're wearing are, like, swim trunks.
They do it.
But they do it, and they don't look bad, so it's, it's definitely just...
It's really about having fun and being comfortable. That's the big parts. Does anybody have any specific questions about something you want to make that you don't know, maybe?
So I had an idea for doing Morgan from Darkstalkers, and I just
Nice.
don't know how to do the wings. Like, I really want to do the wings, but I just don't know how to attack
I've
that.
made that costume
Have you?
5 times.
Really?
That costume is ridiculous. First, make sure you get dance tights that don't have a control top.
Okay.
Because that will just mess like they go down like shorts.
Oh,
It's
I know.
horrible.
the
But
wings
for that,
one, yeah.
the best idea I've ever heard for those, and somebody gave me this, was corsets have boning in the middle. And what they did was they put some boning in their leotard, and then they attached the wings to the boning in the middle of the back, so they could hide the straps that were holding the wings on, because she doesn't have
Yeah.
anything up top. So if you make a nice like snug belt thing to go under your leotard, you can attach wings to that as long as you do lightweight wings.
And there's actually one of the things that I was going to do
If
for,
you, if you come up after, I can like draw you a picture of what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, because I'm sure that was confusing.
And I mean, yeah, and one of the other things with that is if you make the wings removable, especially in like big crowds, like you can have them where they're on a metal thing where you can slip them into the holster that you have. Like when I do Toothiana from Rise of the Guardians, I have to be able to take those
Yeah, we're
wings
gonna
off
do
because
that.
they're huge. So I need to be able to pull them out and hold them to me.
a
And
good
so
plan.
there's ways you can do it.
Sorry, you had a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one costume idea. And,
Sure.
it's kind of like a motorcycle with a sidecar to it. It's a two-person kind of costume deal, and I have some ideas, but I don't know how to actually make it look more
So you
motorcycle-ish.
want it to look like you're riding a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Well,
with this,
there's actually ways to use cardboard. I mean, okay, now cardboard sounds like when you think about cardboard, you're like, oh man, I'm making a cardboard box. Like, what am I doing? People actually, a lot of Halo armor that you see walking around
Yeah.
is actually cardboard.
I'd check
There's-
with people who do like Halo or Boba
Yeah.
Fett. Like those guys are really good at making convincing props out of
Because
inexpensive
what you do
materials.
is you use cardboard, and there's certain ways that you do little cuts to the cardboard, and then you can paint it with a urethane that'll seal it up, and they definitely will.
Urethane's really inexpensive.
Yeah, and I'm not real good with the cardboard stuff. I crashed and burned with a horrible Iron Man that I'm never gonna do again.
You did resin. You cast pieces. That was such a.
I know I casted it.
You
and
were
it was
really
a bad
ambitious.
Idea. I was
but-
ambitious. Yeah, but there.
Do you want to make it look like you're riding a motorcycle when you're
Yeah.
walking around? Is that the idea?
yeah,
Clear
like,
straps.
kind of like one of those horses, you know,
Yeah.
like those cowboy costumes,
Just,
but
I
more.
would suggest convincingly faking legs on the outside of it, and then trying to construct it so that you're walking in the middle. It'd
Yeah, I
be tough
would-
if it's a thin bike. I'm not sure. What's the series?
Well, I wanted to save it for future,
All right, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
but yeah, maybe like Indiana Jones style. Like,
Oh yeah. Like, well, luckily those are a little bit bigger bikes. Like, definitely, like I would definitely reach out to one of the look in the Halo groups and see if they're
Yeah,
you know,
Halo space armor people, they could probably help you
And there's
significantly with those
Or
props.
to be honest, there's a forum called the RPF forum, and it's the real props.
The RPF forum will be your best friend. You will get a
Yeah,
million
they
people
do.
telling
They're
you
the ones
things.
who they basically, when a movie trailer comes out, the kids at the RPF forum basically go, okay, see this costume, see this armor. I want to figure out how to make that.
You need to
and
make
so they'll
Judge
have like
Dredd.
30
Let's do
pages of how to make things and people trying different things. That's how we learned how to do the Tron costumes. Is
true.
from the RPF forums.
If you need help with EL wire, metal
Yeah.
props, anything, they're pretty good
These
with
people
it.
are like, you know, engineers, and they'll figure this out. So if you actually get an account on the RPF forum, they will, and post there, they will, or search, they will probably be able to find a really good convincing way for you to do it.
Yeah. Sorry. Another question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to see some good sites for like a steampunk versions of like Marvel characters. Because I'm going to try to do a steampunk Galactus.
A steampunk
Oh my God, that would be
Galactus? That would be
awesome.
amazing.
To be honest, I think that'd be a lot of like leather, but if obviously like leather's pretty expensive, like pleather.
Beware if you use, okay, leather doesn't breathe very well at all. Anyway, vinyl breathes even less. And vinyl you gotta
Yeah.
be a little careful with when you sew it, because when you puncture the vinyl, it weakens it. And the same with leather, but less. For Steampunk Galactus, that's interesting. I don't know how you would do that.
You could do
but
some
that
really cool
sounds
stuff with
so
the helmets.
cool.
Like I would, to be honest, get like a World War. Like, I would get you could make a really cool top hat that had his head things coming off of it.
That'd be
And
pretty
I mean,
excellent.
with steampunk, PVC pipe is your friend because you paint that stuff metal and it'll look like real pipe.
Yep.
PVC pipe would look really good coming out of a top hat on that, coming it through. There are pretty convincing ways to do fake smoke that you can read online, and having smoke coming out of those.
Actually,
would
I
be
had to look
pretty
that
good.
up for some
Yeah.
stuff. Train stores sell smoke that you put in the trains that you need to heat up to a very low temperature, I think. I don't know if it still works the same way, but that is so convenient for just a little tiny bit of like something coming out of the top. Also, we were going to do
A double
Batman
breast-
villains, and they sell like Evian as a spray in upscale grocery stores, so you can use it for like any steam fake effect that you need because it creates a mist.
Yeah.
Super useful. But yeah, the RPF will help you. Steampunk communities are usually super helpful. If you
Yeah,
talk
and
to
they're
steampunk
really, really
people
open.
about how to make something, they will get so excited about helping you do gears and everything you want to do. If you have a drawing, they love engineering stuff. I've never met a steampunk person who wasn't super helpful with making something
Yeah.
really cool and functional.
And I think we have time for like one more question. Yay!
So you mentioned makeup, and I wanted to know if you know any good sites to get good costume makeup that would last all day.
Yeah, okay,
I
so-
can give you a site to a store that sells professional makeup. If you have a specific costume, I'm really good on like that sort of business. Lasting all day, if you use a primer, like a foundation primer, and you can get what's called all-nighter spray at like pretty much any Sephora or Target or something. If you don't have the money for all-nighter spray, you can hairspray, a light layer of hairspray.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
today. Was
there's
that
also,
worth it?
I
Really
would
good.
say, I'm a huge proponent of Ben Nye. Any of the theater makeups, there's Maroon, Mehron, and Ben Nye are probably your best bets for, especially for all day wear. I'm wearing Final Seal, which is basically this little spray.
Yep.
It smells like mint, and you spray it on your face,
Everything
and it'll
theatrical
set.
is default minty.
It's a matte spray, and it'll make your makeup last forever.
Final Seal, if you're just doing regular makeup, Final Seal is a little bit like overkill. You
Yeah,
can get away
but
with
it'll last
hairspray and be
forever.
fine. Because Final Seal is almost a little plasticky.
Final Seal will also work really well if you're doing body makeup,
If you
especially
mix-
if you're doing like Homestuck or something. It'll keep it from getting everywhere.
If you mix Final Seal and it's called Liquicet by Ben Nye together, you can get waterproof makeup.
Yeah.
And that's super cool.
Yeah, and if you type in Ben Nye or Maroon into Google, there are a ton of different sites that
yeah.
sell their stuff that are not. It's to be honest, it's not that
It's
expensive.
not very
it's cheap.
expensive.
It's cheaper than MAC.
It's cheaper than regular makeup.
Yeah,
By like a lot.
It's a lot cheaper, and it's really good quality theater stuff. And you know that theater is always under the hot lights, so it's going to do you well.
Yeah, totally does. Even
yeah.
with the Liquicet mixture, the
Yeah,
regular,
it'll
like
come
just
out.
a regular cheap makeup remover wipes from like Target or something will take them off.
Yeah.
Super convenient. Unless you get into alcohol makeup, everything pretty much comes off.
Alcohol makeup, which you use with airbrushing, which you can
And
sometimes
that's-
get into. The only thing that'll take alcohol-based makeup off is
alcohol.
alcohol. You smell like a distillery.
It's really bad.
I was poison ivy with alcohol makeup once.
It does not come off.
No, I
do
went
not
to
sp-
work with green arms because I was tired of smelling like alcohol. So I just went to work with green. Yeah. So just be careful
an
with that.
adventure.
But with that, I think we are
Yeah, I
out of
think we're out of
time. But
time.
thank you so much, guys.
Thank
really,
you guys
I
for
hopefully
coming.
we
I hope we
helped
were
you.
helpful.
Yeah.
If anybody had any questions and wanted to come up, I'll give